morning. I'm Andrew Lansley. I'm Strategic Counsel at Lowe Associates, and we have the great privilege and pleasure of being part of the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. My privilege to moderate our discussion this morning on the interesting and important subject of advanced materials as a key enabling technology for the twin transitions, the green and the digital transitions. I'm very much looking forward to a very interesting discussion this morning with presentations from our colleagues at the European Commission and panel members drawn from clusters across Europe. Can I remind everybody that we will also have details of many of the forthcoming opportunities in the European Clusters Collaboration Platform, and also an opportunity to hear about the funding opportunities that will be available. Let me just remind all of our very welcome audience members today that your participation is important to our discussion. We will at a later stage use Slido to launch 2 polls, and we'll be looking for your opportunity to tell us about what you think are the uses of advanced materials that at the moment the challenges for the adoption of advanced materials for industrial leadership. You will see that there is both a chat and a Q and answer function. Can you please use the chat function freely to raise issues, and also in particular to offer information about links and references, as will our presenters. On the Q&A, please send questions, and I, as your moderator, will hope to draw the questions into our discussion with the panelists at a later stage. And if you feel that you particularly need to speak to your question, raise a hand and I will endeavour to give you a floor. But we have a great deal of time. We have a limited time available and a great deal to cover in that time. Can I please ask you to note that the session is already being recorded and will be published on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. We have some really interesting presentations to come ahead of us. And indeed, we start first with news from the European Cluster Collaboration Platform from Nina Hopman, please. Nina.
Many thanks, Andrew, and good morning to everybody. Happy to see you this morning on the topic of advanced materials. But before we get into that, let me share some news from the ECCP. First of all, please be reminded of the European Cluster Conference, which will be a highlight event this year, taking place in Brussels at the Square Meeting Center on the 7th and 8th of May. And we will talk about the green transition, digital transition, and building resilience, as well as dive into the key drivers for this. So talking about skills, funding, and technologies. You can register under the link that you see here on the screen and that we will put in the chat for you. And if you're interested, on the 8th, there's also a matchmaking event that's connected to the Cluster Conference, and that will take place in a dedicated room at the conference venue for you to find potential business partners at all stages of the supply chain and to look for future project partners to set up new collaborations with. So this will take place for 4 hours on the 8th of May at the Cluster Conference venue, and you can register for this as well. We would also like to invite you to save the date for our Clusters Meet Regions event. The next one will take place in Austria on the 18th and 19th of June. And it is titled under the theme Tradition Reinvented. And we will explore how clusters can spearhead the shift towards a climate neutral and digital future, and how to align with European sustainability goals with the support of clusters. And also here we will offer you the opportunity to matchmake with participants that are coming to Austria or that are located in Austria. And this is on the first day of the Clusters Meet Regions. Registration will open soon, so stay tuned. But you can also already find the draft agenda published on the website on the ECCP for the Clusters Meet Regions. If you're looking into matchmaking and looking for international partners, we have 2 opportunities for you. One is the EU-Taiwan matchmaking event, which will take place on site in Berlin, in Germany, on the 10th and 12th of June. And there's a delegation of around 80 companies and trade organizations coming from Taiwan, with focus areas on ICT, semiconductors, digital, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, advanced manufacturing, as well as smart mobility, sustainability, but also smart healthcare and smart cities and connectivity. And to learn more about this, we will offer you an info webinar so that you can get all the details, which will take place next week on the 18th of April at 9:30. So don't forget to register if you're interested in meeting potential business partners from Taiwan. If you're more looking into the Southern Mediterranean region and looking into the Southern Mediterranean region, matchmaking will take place in Frankfurt, also in Germany, on the 11th and 13th of June. And you can meet B2B or C2C business partners from the Southern Mediterranean countries that you see here on the screen, with focus areas on green tech, digital, manufacturing, as well as pharma and biotech. So register for this if you're interested in participating. Moving on from events to survey, there's a consultation open for the Single Market Program to gather feedback for an interim evaluation of the Single Market Program that is running until 27. And here you can assess the design implementation of the Single Market Program so that we get first results on the project period of the first 2 years. And this consultation is open until the 31st of May. So please look at the open consultation and give your feedback. And last but not least, if you're available tomorrow morning and are looking for something interesting, the EN is organizing a training session on sustainable finance, and you can participate virtually and learn about the EU Sustainable Finance Framework, SME reporting standards, the Innovation Fund, InvestEU, as well as the SME Climate Hub tool for SMEs. Since it's tomorrow, we put you already the connection link on WebEx directly in the chat. So you copy this into your calendar and you can connect tomorrow morning to learn more. And with that, I hand over back to you, Andrew, so that we can dive into the topic of the day.
Nina, thank you very much indeed. A very rich selection of events that are upcoming. Thank you for the details of those, which all of our participants can also see those on the chat. All the links are there, giving you the opportunity to link in to those. Let's turn to our subject of our discussion this morning. And I'm very much looking forward to the presentations from our two colleagues from the European Commission, Sophie Norriger, Deputy Head of Unit from DG Research and Innovation, and Philip Brunga from DG Grow. May I hand over to Sophie and Philip, who between them will take us through many of these important issues on advanced materials for EU industrial leadership. Sophie, would you care to take it from here?
Yes, thank you very much. And so thank you very much for having the opportunity to speak here to you today and for the introduction. We will, together with Philip, try to take you through the main actions and the main, the scope and the vision behind the recent adopted Commission communication on advanced materials for industrial leadership, which was actually adopted on the 27th of February. And I think I would encourage all of you to read it also for the more detailed details in it. Next slide, please. So here we just want to remind everybody that we are working based on the OECD definition of advanced materials. So advanced materials are intentionally designed and engineered materials which have a specific improved functional performance. So they can have both new or enhanced properties or more targeted or enhanced structural features. They include both high-tech materials, so new emerging materials from innovative manufacturing processes, but they also include materials that are manufactured from a more traditional way, but which have new properties and new functions, which we so-called low-tech materials. But it is really based on the OECD definition of what advanced materials are. Next slide, please. So here, just to give you, but I suppose all of you are very, very familiar with what advanced materials are, but this slide is just to give you, a vision of how many different areas they include, and also therefore their importance actually for our society today, and also for achieving the Green Deal objectives and the digital transition, which we are aspiring to in Europe. So you can see them, they are actually found, I would say, almost everywhere, and they have a lot of different, structures, a lot of different raw materials involved in them. And you can see we also have bio-based advanced materials, for example. Next slide. And with that, I hand over to Philip for the moment.
Thank you, Sophie. Good morning also from my side. So the policy context, as you know, the EU wants to deliver on its promise to make the twin transition, so the digital and the green transition a reality. We want to maintain our industrial leadership and also make sure that we will have strategic autonomy also regarding these new kinds of materials. Advanced materials can help us with achieving these objectives because they are key enablers for innovation. There are many applications across different sectors for clean energy, for example, which is necessary for the Net Zero Industry Act. But they are also they have a potential to replace certain raw materials, critical raw materials, and this is also taken into consideration in the Critical Raw Materials Act. All in all, we expect an increasing demand for advanced materials for the sectors that I just mentioned, but also for construction, for mobility, for semiconductors. We think that they will help us in improving efficiency and also creating more sustainable products. Next slide, please. So what is the state of the play concerning advanced materials? We can look at it from the innovation stand of view. So for example, the patent share. Here, the EU accounts for 15% of all patents in this sector of advanced materials, which is not lagging behind, but which is also not on the top of the global development. We have 28% of patents in the US and 24% in Japan. So concerning patents, the EU is on the third position. The situation is a bit different concerning the R&D expenditures. As you see here, the EU accounts for roughly 20 billion euros, and which is less than half of what is invested from in the US. We see here that there's indeed much room for improvement. Next slide, please. And which leads me to the overall ambition that we formulated in the strategy for advanced materials for industrial leadership. We want to strengthen the resilience and the strategic autonomy of the EU. And we want also to tackle the different problems that we have. So we know that there's a fragmented research landscape. There's a lack of investment, as I just mentioned. We noticed also that there's a lack of skills, and there are long development cycles, and no clear international strategy for cooperation between the EU and other countries and other regions. The ambition, to sum it up, is basically to accelerate the research and technology development in the EU, to scale up the innovation and the manufacturing capacities, and to step up the production of advanced materials.
The strategy is building on 5 pillars, or if you want 4 pillars and a roof, as it is shown in the current slide. The first pillar is about the research and innovation. It's really about making sure that we have a launch pad for the twin transition, and that we are prepared for the EU resilience and open strategic autonomy. In the second pillar, the first pillar is really research and innovation. In the second pillar, we then move from fast track from the lab to the fab. In pillar 3, we increase capital investment and access to financing. And in pillar 4, we look at fostering the production and the use of advanced materials. So you see that with these 4 pillars, we really cover the whole life cycle from design to development to the uptake and the use of advanced materials. Because one thing which is important is also that we have the capacities in Europe to design and develop, but that we also use and bring to market what we have designed and developed, so that our research and innovation investments are also really, at the end of the day, generating benefits for industry in Europe. And then we have the pillar 5, which is what you see here as the roof, which is the overall governance, which we expect to set up in order to monitor all the different actions which are in this communication, and also to set the joint priorities. So next slide, please. So under the pillar 1, which is the research and innovation actions, the main objective is really to have common research and innovation objectives and priorities co-created with member states, but also in consultation with stakeholders. The idea is here that really to ensure that we can align the different investments we have as much as possible, so to make sure that we all pull on the same string and really can make sure that Europe becomes a leader and remains a leader in research and innovation on advanced materials. In the initial stage, we are focusing on 4 main areas, which are energy, mobility, construction, and electronics. And you will see that this focus has been discussed with both stakeholders and member states, but it is also very closely linked, of course, to our ambitions of the Green Deal and the digital transition. So you should, you recognize a consistency in our ideas, in our policy aims with the choice of the first priorities. Now, these priority areas will be updated, and this is all linked to afterwards the governance structure, which Philip will present to you at the end of this presentation. But we will continue this discussion and to make sure that we really, in this, to see where has investments been made, where are the new areas coming up, where do we need to join forces, and to drive this action further. A second action under this area is the identification of R&I needs for the substitution of critical raw materials with advanced materials. This is an activity where we will launch a study with our colleagues from the Joint Research Center, who are already engaged in monitoring critical raw materials. Next slide, please. So under the second pillar, which is the lab to fab, we have 2 main actions. The first one is called the Material Commons. It's about setting up a European digital infrastructure in order to speed up and accelerate the design and development of advanced materials. We want to build on existing national initiatives, and here are 2 major initiatives which are well known, I suppose, to everybody. It's Diadem in France and the Materials Digital in Germany. But we also know that there are other national initiatives, regional initiatives going on. And the step we are at now is really in, collecting the information about these different initiatives, and to make sure that we can federate them and build a really European infrastructure on it. And then we, of course, invite industry and other stakeholders, academia, to contribute to then making this infrastructure a success, also by providing tools, methods, data, and making use of this infrastructure to design and develop new advanced materials. The second action is linked to technology infrastructures. And here the ambition is to really have a single entry catalog so that it is easy, especially for SMEs, to find the technology infrastructure which would be of added value for them to test and move towards the market of their developments in advanced materials. We have already funded, there are already about 28 available test beds, which have collected a funding about 390 million. So it is really also about to analyze now, where are the gaps? Where do we need additional technology infrastructures to really make sure that we get a vibrant ecosystem in Europe to design and develop and test and bring to the market advanced materials. Next slide, and over to Philip.
Thank you. So indeed, research is one element which is very important and which the communication tries to tackle. However, research alone will, of course, not bring the innovations also to the market. Here we need investment. We need public investment and also private investment. As I indicated at the beginning, the investment situation in the EU is not that great. First, I would like to mention the Horizon Europe Partnership, Innovative Materials for EU. This would be a public-private partnership. 250 million would come from the public side, and the other 250 million would be intended to come from the private industry. Also, the Commission intends to bring innovative materials, advanced materials, to the Forum for Important Projects of Common European Interest. This could be also very important to create cross-border funding projects for certain advanced materials. Funding is provided also by the European Innovation Council. It's about 130 million. And there are several other funding instruments which will come into action: the Innovation Fund, InvestEU, and the strategic technologies, or the platform for strategic technologies in Europe, STEP. Next slide, please. So apart from funding, we need also other actions to bring innovation to the market, to commercialize innovation. Public procurement is very important. Public procurers provide for much investment and can also have the capacity to bring new products to the market. Here we will bring this new strategy to the attention of the big buyers project, so a big alliance of public procurers. Their next annual conference will take place on the 24th of April, where we want also to present our strategy. I mentioned at the beginning also that skills are an issue. Therefore, the strategy envisages to create an advanced materials academy. Funding is planned in the size of 10 million euros. And then we also have to look after standards and patents. So standards are, of course, very important to bring innovation to the markets, to create confidence by the market players in new products. And therefore, we want to improve the collaboration with standards bodies like CEN-CENELEC, ETSI, and ISO. And we want also to analyze the standards landscape. So the Commission will conduct a study, or will ask private consultants to do studies on the standards landscape. So what standards already exist and what could be done to improve the situation. And the same for patents. Patents can, of course, play a big role also to direct investment 2 new products. So we will see to what extent the European patent policy can help also in advance these new materials. So we have also already a budget of about 600,000 euros for these studies. Next slide, please. And this would be the last slide, and that's also the last pillar of our communication, pillar 5, the governance. Of course, we need to make sure that all these different work strands are well coordinated. That's why the Commission has proposed to set up a technology council. This would be an expert group composed by ministries from the member states, ministries from both research and industry sides. But we need also buy-in from the research community and industry, of course. That's why research and industry stakeholders would also be members of this group. There should be also the possibilities for countries associated to Horizon Europe to be part of this group, and to invite other players like social partners, industrial alliances, but also financial institutions like banks and venture capital funds to this group to discuss very specifically how we can advance on the different initiatives that we just presented. And with that, I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the discussion.
Philip and Sophie, thank you very much indeed for that absolutely fascinating presentation. I think, as people may have noticed on the chat, Nina has confirmed that the presentation slides that you're seeing will be available on the European Cluster Collaboration platform following our debate this morning. So Philip and Sophie, if you stay with us for the panel debate, that would be extremely helpful. I know there might be a number of questions that will relate to your presentations, but that was absolutely fascinating. I do just echo what Sophie said at the beginning about reading the communication. It is happily one of those really fascinating. It isn't terribly long, but it is really packed with information, the communication, and is well worth people's time in reading the communication as well as benefiting from the presentation this morning. We want to involve all of our participants right now with the Slido. What we do here is by simply scanning the QR code as it comes up in a moment, you will be able to join Slido and respond to the questions, and we will see the answers coming forward. Let's take the first one, which is about the question of whether you as a cluster are experiencing, or in your own business, experiencing increased demand for advanced materials in your sector. If all of our participants would be, there they are, they're beginning to address that question by scanning the QR code, responding to the 4 options. Let's see how they adjust over a few moments. We won't wait long, hoping our participants will join, scan the QR code, respond to the question. At the moment, let's see, it is still adjusting a little. We have a number who are responding that they experience the demand, a number saying it's a new topic, a proportion, but only a minority involved in addressing the demand, but very few for whom it is not an issue in your sector. Let's just wait a moment, see if these figures adjust even further as more responses come in. So interesting, we're beginning to see evidence that this is a new topic for a significant proportion of people. So the value of our presentations and our discussion this morning are evident from that. Many of our respondents can see the demand, a proportion are involved in addressing it. And some have not encountered this, but we all will encounter this over time. That's excellent. May we move on to our second poll? this is our second question to you, please. If you scan this QR code, you will be invited to enter a word into the Slido to tell us what you see are the challenges. Please put into the poll what challenges you see. I will not lead the witnesses. I'm inviting all of our participants to type the word of their choice into the Slido to tell us what is the challenge for industrial leadership in advanced materials that we are facing. We've heard from Sophie and Philip of many of the challenges which are addressed in the communication published only 6 weeks ago by the Commission, and the many ways in which we need to improve the European uptake, which is the word that is so far leading our question of challenges. Uptake in terms of investment, uptake in terms of the transition from research and innovation into products and markets. Let's have a look what else we're seeing. Lack of competencies. We heard about the question of skills, the need for training. We can see that arising, the need for further investment, which in the presentation, Philip showed us the relative lack of financing and investment that was recorded there. Grand. I think we've seen some excellent material coming forward on what the challenges are, the need for collaboration, the need to focus research, and the opportunity to bring the new thinking and new possibilities are all evident in the responses from our participants. So thank you all very much indeed. Let's turn to our panelists. You can see, I hope that we have 3 excellent panelists: Annabelle, Head of European Affairs at Polymeris, Eva and Magdalena, respectively from EMAST in the Italian Technology District for the engineering of polymeric and composite materials, and Magdalena from the Silesian Nano Cluster. Let's turn first to Annabelle. Perhaps, Annabelle, could you tell us something about the involvement of Polymeris in the use of advanced materials? How is that being conducted by Polymeris? When you look at that list of the challenges and the environment in which the ecosystem, which was set out by Philip and Sophie so well, what do you think Polymeris is presently finding are the principal challenges that you are facing? Annabelle, please, if you're able to.
Yeah, can you hear me well?
Yeah, super.
Perfect.
I can hear you and see you, Annabelle. You're very
Okay.
welcome. Thank you. Can you give
Wonderful.
us some of your response to the challenges that we've been hearing about?
Sure. Thank you, Andrew. Just a few words first on Polymeris. So we're a French cluster focusing on innovation on polymer materials, so plastics, rubber, and composites. So this makes sense also with what was presented in the beginning about advanced materials. And we focus on 3 strategic areas, so circular economy and eco-design of these materials, advanced manufacturing, and indeed advanced materials in terms of properties and functionalities. So we try to be fully in line and fully support our members with the twin transition. We have around 450 members, 80% of which are companies, and what we are doing is strongly to bring together collaborative projects and actions on networking between academia and industry to bring more innovation towards the market, to bring actually what's coming from the lab and what's needed into the market, but also the needs of the industry, trying to bring them together with what the research is doing. At European level, we are coordinating 3 projects, especially on materials. One on advanced materials for lightweight, that is called Amulet, in which we experienced also some cascade funding opportunities for SMEs, and that I will answer also to one of your questions a bit later. We have also PORREC, a Eurocluster project focusing on recycling of polymer materials, which is also a big challenge. And Polytronics, that is focusing also on artificial intelligence for the advanced manufacturing of materials and advanced design of materials. For us, what we think is that the materials and the advanced materials, they need to be of the futures, speaking of technology, of performances, of properties, but also they need to be for the future, and that's in line also with the Green Deal. They need to be safe, sustainable, recyclable. So they need to have this like entire competencies of materials, and they're the core of the future products. That's why it's really important by the moment you design your new product or your new need to take into consideration the material that you will need. In terms of challenges, I would say, well, there are some for us, and especially on polymers, the big question is on recyclability. The recyclability of multi-layer materials such as composites or materials with added performances or multi-components materials. We see a lot of, let's say, smart materials with printed electronics, for instance, and that's also coming, that's making it a bit more difficult to recycle, even though there are some ongoing research trying to support this recyclability. But there is also a question of performance of material under some extreme conditions, some flame retardancy, some toxicity. So that's the importance also. An important challenge of weight reduction. We need also everything to be lighter if we want our I don't know, vehicle to be greener. Also, we need to make it lighter for less emission, less consumption of energy, and the supply also of these raw materials, being it fossil based or bio based. There is also a good question on this supply.
Annabelle, thank you very much indeed. Can I just stay with you for a moment and just ask this, because one of the central themes of the communication from the European Commission is about the need for these advanced materials to make a contribution to sustainability and circularity, and you made some interesting points about that. But the communication suggests there is a somewhat of a lack of innovation in this area. Is this something that you and your colleagues are able to tap into? So, for example, is Horizon Europe going to be really important in bringing forward innovation on which you and your industrial colleagues can rely?
Yeah, absolutely. What we're trying to do, and what we have some ongoing projects actually also on the difficulty of the recyclability of some materials or of some, but regarding also recyclability, you need to start from the beginning of the value chain, from the collection also of the product and the materials through the sorting also, which is important because not all materials behave the same way and are recycled also the same way. So that's one important thing. And then you have the recycling company that is also able to, with some mechanical or chemical technology, depending on what they're using and depending on the material that is coming, will use different processes. And then what is this recycled material look like and how it can be reintegrated in a new product, because they have the recycled material have different properties, different performances as the raw one, because basically sometimes you're breaking something that was designed to be unbreakable. So you for sure, then you need to think about what could be the new use of the recycled materials. Could it be the same use and with incorporation into the same value chain and within let's say, quite closed loops? Or could it be a new use in some different sectors? So for us also one challenge is cross-sectoral collaboration on this topic as well, because some materials coming from one sector could be absolutely recycled and reused in another sector. But the importance there, and you were mentioning also communication, is also the communication and clustering activities between the industry, the end users, the recyclers, and the potential remanufacturers, and the uptake of these secondary materials into new value chains.
That's really fascinating. Thank you, Annabelle. We will come back to you a bit later in the panel debate. If I may turn, however, to our second panelist, Eva Millela, who is president of IMAS, the European Technological District for the Engineering of Polymeric and Composite Materials and Structures. I wonder, Eva, could you tell us something about the work of IMAS and in particular, how you are bringing forward advanced materials and contributing, as Annabelle was describing, to the Green Deal objectives, but also perhaps on the digital transition and the digitization of industry. Eva, could you tell us a bit about the work of IMAS? Hoping Eva can join us.
Yes, IMAST is the Italian cluster on composite and polymers engineering. And we have only large companies as shareholders, together universities and National Research Center. And we act like the knowledge integrators, operating as an holding of research labs, and we create mixed groups of researchers coming from companies and university in the specific multisectoral research project. For example, we have carried out a project on additive manufacturing, where our shareholders coming from companies operating in defense, aeronautical, automotive, and pharmaceutical had worked together to produce prototypes in different fields. The same kind of activities in the field, for example, of thermoplastic, structural thermoplastics, that is a big challenges in the field of composites. Moreover, we manage a virtual and real hubs of instruments, because we have more about 2,000 instruments coming from our stakeholders that we put together, and we use also to help the small and medium enterprises. Finally, we design tailored programs to support small and medium enterprise in the development of their solutions. In particular, put in contact with large companies with the technical support of universities. In practical, without money, but with the real support, technical support. In terms of the challenges, he must have individuated two main challenges. Of course, the new materials, high-tech material, of course. But in our field, two big challenges. One is the sustainability of the technologies for production, but also of materials in terms of for example, bio-based or biorecycled resins or natural fibers for composite and so on. And also to improve the connection with the digital technologies, because we have many needs to accelerate the process for the characterization, but not only. I think, for example, the learning machine or the artificial intelligence or digital twins to process the big data that we have from different sources. And another challenge for us is integrate and improve the stakeholders along the chain, only the chain, from the producer of materials, the supply chain for the end user materials, like the producer of aircraft or automobile, on the also pharmaceutical, because we work, for example, on drug deliveries, to improve drug deliveries, or the pharmaceutical packaging is a big problem, the pharmaceutical packaging, for example. Then I think that the role of the clusters like IMAS, but also like the other clusters, is very important in these challenges, because we can play the essential role to manage this complex panorama.
Eva, thank you very much. That's absolutely fascinating, and all credit to you and EMAS for what you're doing. I wonder if I could just also follow up on the point you were making about the use of AI and other new digital technologies to speed up innovation. One of the pillars that we were told about by Philip earlier is that of speeding up innovation. What is the potential for AI in particular to be a mechanism for speeding up the process of innovation and getting products into use earlier?
It's very challenging because we study and we improve our knowledge with this. But for example, in the terms of design of materials, the design of a material is the heart of the composite field. And then the artificial intelligence is a very strong instrument to improve our imagination of new materials, for example, but also to process, of course, the data or process with the learning machine to select faster the characteristics and the properties of the materials. And it is a challenge for us. Also for us is the challenge, because our effort is to improve this connection. Our traditional knowledge on materials engineering, but with other kind of skills, of competence in terms of digital.
Eva, thank you very much. Let me turn to our third, if I may. Thank you for that very much indeed. Let me turn to Magdalena Cholovinska-Falats, who is Chief Innovation Officer at the Silesian Nano Cluster. I wonder, Magdalena, can we see and hear from you, and in particular hear about the impact? You remember Sophie was showing us some of the examples of advanced materials and the importance of nanotechnology to the development of some of those advanced materials. I wonder if you could tell us something about the work of your cluster in the adoption and adaptation of nanotechnologies for advanced materials.
Hello, good morning, everyone. It's really nice being here and sharing my experience with you. As Silesian Nano Cluster, we bring together companies, basically SMEs and startups and research institutions in Poland who are active in advanced materials engineering, with special focus on nanotechnology and nanomaterials. What we are doing to support our companies and the nanotechnology industry is basically we play a role of policy advocacy and support, by being part of smart specialization working groups on national level and on a regional level. So we support, or we are some sort of supporters for ministry and regional institutions in deciding what areas should be developed in the area of advanced materials, what aspects and what technologies should be supported for financing from European funds in Poland. And what's more, we facilitate networking and collaboration to promote knowledge sharing and exchange best practices between our companies and research institutions. We also support our companies in finding best partners for their projects and their challenges, to support them in facing those challenges. For example, we create a project consortia. We support companies in finding partners in Poland, but also abroad in other European countries, because we have a really strong network of clusters and institutions around Europe to foster and support project drafting and project proposals. Nanotechnology is one of the most important, I think, areas of advanced materials because it's really interactive and have a strong impact in many industries. For example, it finds its application in energy sector, also in sustainable materials development. It also is really important in developing new semiconductors and sensors, which may support the digitalization and development of new smart devices and emerging technologies like artificial intelligence for semiconductors and hardware for those industries and those applications.
Very good. Magdalena, thank you very much indeed. I wondered if you might, if I might just follow up on the question of the skills. We've heard that the availability of skills, presumably both in terms of the research projects and also in industry in the adoption and uptake of advanced materials, there's not necessarily the level of skills that we are requiring across Europe. As a cluster, how are you addressing some of the skills needs and the development of skills in what are, for many people, very new materials and very new processes that they're working with?
Yes, it's very new material sector, and as I mentioned, it's really interdisciplinary. So it engages researchers from chemistry, physics, bioengineering, and material science. So it's this development of new materials is I forgot the word. Development of new materials requires, working together, specialists in different areas. What we do, we provide workshops and trainings for our cluster members in this area, and we also provide them information or some sort of promoting courses and trainings organized by other institutions which are interesting and may support them in upskilling.
Very good. Thank you very much. Well, thanks. Delighted to have all our panelists with us. Let's open it up to some further questions now, and drawing in also Philip and Sophie, who made those excellent earlier presentations. I wonder, Sophie, we were hearing, if you're able to join us in the panel, we were hearing from Ava, I think, in particular about some of the ways in which they are supporting their large companies with testing and experimental facilities. And I think the communication suggested there was a lack across Europe of facilities for testing and experimental work, particularly with these new and advanced materials. Is there, as part of the strategy, is there an intention, for example, for Horizon Europe or other funding to support clusters in the provision of that kind of experimental and testing capacity?
I don't think we say there's a lack of these testing facilities, but I think we say we need a more coordinated approach, and we need to make it easier for the different SMEs to actually find, what is available out there and how can they access the different testing facilities. Because the open innovation testbeds, for example, which we have funded, are spread all over Europe. Or an Italian SME might rather want to know, what is available for me in Italy, how can I contact them directly? It might also be easier for them if they have national support to then access such testing facilities. So I think what we are doing now, there's a survey ongoing to actually, identify all these different technology infrastructures, as we call them. And I think it would be very important also that we gather, the information from all of you, what is out there and what can actually, be put into this pool, that if we develop this kind of, one-stop shop access platform where you can then find the testing facility you need, that we are well aware about what you have. And vice versa, I think as soon as we have this all running, we should also share the information with you. And maybe I'm looking at Philip now and think whatever information RTD has, if we pass it on to Grow and then they share it with you, it will help us to make sure that everybody is well informed.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Annabelle, could I come back to you? You were talking about your membership, and amongst them you have a significant number of small and medium enterprises, the SMEs. I wonder, can you just talk us through how they are responding to some of the opportunities here? Because when you look at the comparisons internationally, of course, the extent of innovation is often highly dependent upon the creation of startups, and people who scale up some of these smaller businesses are real sources. They're fountains of innovation, aren't they? I wondered, how are SMEs accessing some of these new technologies?
Yeah, sure. Well, our actually core activity as a competitiveness cluster, and that's our role, let's say, in the French area on competitiveness cluster, is to bring together research and industrial actors. So the point here is to have a great possibility of networking. We work with a scientific committee that is coming from the research members of our cluster, that is also giving a roadmap, giving the great orientations also for the innovation in terms of materials, what is coming also from the regulations, the regional, national, and European regulation. And this scientific committee, composed of around 20 partners in the research area, is also bringing new opportunities towards the SMEs. They are also the one focusing, doing a technological and scientific watch on the opportunities, on the even innovation. And our role after that as a cluster is to bring these informations toward the SMEs. And we organize several kind of events. We have some events on bringing projects together, when we invite companies to pitch their innovation or their needs, and we invite also some academia and research partner to pitch also what they are working on. And so there is a great space given there for networking and discussion, and so bringing ideas together. The point is for us to also have all the time a collaborative approach on innovation and on bringing everybody together. What we're also doing is through an initiative we have that is a European Digital Innovation Hub, where we try also to, as Sophie was mentioning, the one-stop shops, we're trying to have one here on advanced materials and on focusing on artificial intelligence at the service of the development of advanced materials, either in the development of the product or in the development or in the improvement also on their manufacturing process. And so that is also one good initiative that we have, because in this one-stop shop, we bring together experts from data gathering, expert from digital technology, but also the material experts, so that the SMEs, when they come to us, they know that they will have an expert, let's say a technical center or RTO, with strong knowledge on the materials. So they will have someone that know their problems on the material, or that will know their, let's say, daily work or their daily problematics, together with someone that will be bringing information on data collection, on design, on how to deal with the digitalization of their process or their products, so that when we bring these two competencies together, it's a bit more reassuring for an SME that could be a bit not always open to sharing their problem or to understanding what is about digitalization or bringing advanced technologies to their materials. But if we bring together the right let's say partners to them, and the one they trust because they know their name, or they know that they are the most famous, let's say, RTO for plastics, let's say, if we bring it, if the information is coming from them, then the company feels that they will be understood. And that's one important thing also, is that the company feels that their need or their project will be taken into consideration by the experts in their factory or in their material.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Annabelle. That's a fascinating and really potent example of how the clusters can bring people together and encourage innovation and development. Can I remind all of our audience that the opportunity is open to please put questions to the panelists, put them in the chat or in the Q&A, or if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. I'll keep an eye out on both the Q&A and the chat for those questions. I wonder if I could come back to you, Ava, if you would be kind enough to unmute, so that, because I know you've got some pretty serious work going on that will require adaptation of standards. One of the points that Sophie and Philip were making was about work that needs to be done internationally on standards. Is that being done? Is it being done fast enough? Or are standards an impediment? Are they making it difficult for people to bring products to market because the standards haven't yet adapted to new technologies or are on the advanced materials, or are they changing that fast enough in your experience?
Our experience is particular because composites are main application in aeronautical, and there the standards are very high, very focused, and then we don't have a problem to fast change of a standard because each Boeing have the standard to characterize the materials they use, Airbus also, and then on. We don't have many problems of the standard. Only maybe in for fire resistant properties of materials, because we have, of course, different kind of the standard of the rule depending of the application. We have hard standard, for example, in the rail, because of course, or in automotive respect other. But for us, is not a big problem. I can add one suggestion respect the need of a kind of infrastructure. I think in Italy, the lack is in pre-industrial center, in which we can produce prototype on large scale, because we have many instruments in the university, but at the level of labs, and not for test, in particular to help the startup and so on, the prototype in the pre-industrial level. This is a challenge that I think in European homogeneity is better.
Yeah. Thank you, Ava. That's really interesting, helpful. Thank you very much. Magdalena, can I ask, particularly with nanotechnologies, obviously it's quite interesting sometimes for the investment community and private investors in particular, trying to understand what the opportunities are in some of these new materials, new nano adaptations of materials. How does it work? Do you have particular mechanisms by which you can bring together your technology interest in research institutes and businesses and expose them to investors? Are there those kinds of opportunities happening?
Well, it's a really good question. I think it's my observation that the interest of VC funds and investors is growing in this area. They now understand the role and the potential impact of nano products, nanotechnology on medicine or on energy sector. For example, many new treatments in medicine and new devices support the medical treatment are now developed, but they really requires really big investments and many years of research and work to bring these products to the market. So we need to find investors who can wait this time from investing their money to make profit from this investment, because it's not investments that are for 2-3 years. It's sometimes even for 10 years of projects to develop some technologies. Yeah, but I think that there's also in Poland there are some investors, some VC funds focused on deep tech technologies, and I think I'm observing this trend also in Europe, that the new VC are coming to market who are interested, specialized in deep tech, nanotechnology, and advanced materials investments.
Thank you very much. Sophie, you wanted to come in. Was it on that point?
It is a question to Magdalena, but not on this point on skills. So you can take me when it fits your discussion.
No, please go ahead.
Good. Now, I was wondering, Magdalena, before you mentioned, also the trainings and the workshops you organize. And as you see, one of the actions we are planning is really to set up this materials academy together with the EIT and the KICs behind it. So I would have a curiosity question from my side, is if any of you are actually connected to any of the KICs which exist. That would be a general question. And then if we produce, or if these new academy will then produce these different training curricula, both because we plan to have them spanning both for academia, but also for the current workforce. Will you then also be one of those points where we can, further disseminate them and where we can find trainers to be trained in order to make these opportunities then more widespread also? Thank you.
Yeah.
So if I may answer this question, yes, we're now active basically in Poland and in Polish ecosystem, but it's our recently developed strategy to increase our presence on the international and European level. So for now, we're not partnering with kids, but we're also of course interested in it. Yes, we can share and disseminate information about all the courses, training, and academies that you are developing.
Time is slightly against us, but Philip, I wondered if I might ask you one particular thing: the interaction between the work being done on advanced materials and EU activity and the critical raw materials priorities. Clearly, there is a significant opportunity to replace critical raw materials that are in relatively short supply by the adaptation of materials. Is there a commission? Can you tell us a bit more about how the commission is seeing the relationship between this work on advanced materials and the Critical Raw Materials Act?
Yes, indeed. So the Critical Raw Materials Act, of course, has set out several objectives for the production and for the processing of these materials in the EU. And for the moment, in view of the discussion on resilience and this discussion on strategic autonomy, I think raw materials are, of course, inevitable. In many sectors, for the moment at least, raw materials will not be replaced tomorrow by new materials. But we have to look also at the middle term and at the long term. And in here, there is certainly potential for advanced materials. And the Raw Materials Act takes that also into consideration. So both the Raw Materials Act and the strategy on advanced materials have to be seen in parallel. Let's say that they're not mutually exclusive, but the idea is really that we keep an eye on both developments at the same time.
And the you referred to it in your presentation. The Strategic Technologies for Europe platform will be a mechanism for helping to link those objectives together.
That's a good question. I couldn't tell you now really in detail, but I would assume so. Yes, yeah, because there's a list of these strategic technologies, and I think both are linked both to raw materials and to advanced materials.
Yeah, thank you. Annabelle, you wanted to come in.
Yeah,
please.
thank you. I just wanted to answer also to Sophie's questions. We're part also in the EIT manufacturing, and we supported this year actually a project on skills and competencies between one of our SME and one RTO. So I'd be happy to further discuss it later, Sophie, if needed, or provide information through the ECCP or the organizers here if needed.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you to all of our panelists and presenters from the European Commission. I think it's been absolutely fascinating. I think it's illustrated not only the tremendous importance of advanced materials for the future, but also the role that clusters can play, the ability to bring together research institutes, higher education, and industry, and indeed to link, interestingly, not only linking large and small businesses together in clusters, but crossing sector boundaries as well, sometimes making sure that we can bring the technologies to bear in all of the sectors where they can be of impact, and making a big difference to that. I thought was very well illustrated by our panelists, how we can make a big difference to sustainability, the circular economy, the Green Deal transition, and using the digital technologies as Ava was describing. So thank you all very much indeed for all of those contributions, really helpful. May I thank you and move back to Nina, who is going to tell us and our participants about some of the funding opportunities that are available. Nina, please.
Many thanks, Andrew, and many thanks to all of the speakers for all the interventions and points that you've made. I'll be very quick. To close the session, maybe you've already seen it, the EU Funding and Tenders portal, which is the one-stop shop for funding and tender opportunities, has a new look and feel. So you can browse it, so you find their advanced search capacity, capabilities, tailored recommendations, as well as an enhanced filtering and more engaging content. So when you're looking for new funding and opportunities, feel free to browse a little bit the portal to get the new content and insights and to find the right opportunities for you. Maybe just some calls to point out. We quickly touch upon raw materials. There's an EIT raw materials booster call that is open for startups and SMEs, where the EIT raw materials will support solutions supporting 3 lighthouse programs, which are responsible sourcing of raw materials, sustainable materials, and circular societies. So if your members, your SMEs, your startups are interested in that, please let them know. The deadline for this call is the 27th of May. You see the topic ID here in the screen, and we'll put the link in the chat. There's a call for data-based manufacturing. Here, proposals should support the scale-up deployment and use of data spaces for manufacturing to enhance operations and support the green and digital transition. They should also enable new business models, such as manufacturing as a service or virtual reality, and foster sustainability, efficiency, and innovation through agile supply chain management and risk mitigation through data sharing, as well as the transition to a green and circular economy. Deadline for this call is the 29th of May. You see the topic ID here on the screen and the link in the chat. And an overarching topic, the EU-Ukraine Cluster Partnership Program is open for application. Here, The action will support Ukrainian business integration into EU value chains and the development of cooperation projects and partnerships between Ukrainian and EU clusters and business network organizations, referred to as cluster partnerships in the call, and proposals should address the development of value chain interlinkages between the EU and Ukraine, as well as foster cluster capacity building and the professionalism of the support for both EU and Ukrainian SMEs. The deadline for this call is the 4th of June. It's under the Single Market Program with the topic ID in the screen and the link in the chat. And if you're interested in this call, there's an online info session happening on the 22nd of April in the morning at 9:30. You can register under the link in the chat and get the info on the policy background, more details on the call text, and as well as the financial provisions seen under this call. And you also have a chance to ask some questions to the Commission about it. And as always, let me close with the call that we have from our Euroclusters. Many of the Euroclusters have calls open that are addressed to SMEs in very different sectors. So if you look at it, you find opportunities for SMEs in ICT, mobility, creative and cultural industries, manufacturing, energy-intensive industries. All of these calls are published on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. So please have a look at clustercollaboration.eu/open-calls so that you can find all the details for the possibilities that are currently available to SMEs. And I believe Annabelle mentioned the Eurocluster Polrec, where there's also an open call for internationalization for polymer recycling SMEs with a deadline for the 22nd of May. So have a look and find out more.
Nina, thank you very much indeed. It's a very rich range of opportunities there for all of our colleagues. Can I, before we close, say a big thank you to all of our presenters again, not least to our Commission participants, Sophie and Philip, for such a fascinating introduction to all of the material in the communication. Can I just remind all of our participants, and indeed in conversation with their colleagues, to note the forthcoming talks, and please register for the next talks. That is 17th of April, only a week from today, Autonomy, Innovation, Security, Strategies for Aerospace and Defence. And then a week on from that, Innovation through Integration, how to create and engage a meta cluster. That sounds equally fascinating. So please do register for those forthcoming discussions. In addition to keeping an eye on our chat and all the many valuable links and references that have been posted there, please continue the discussion. It's a fascinating subject with a great deal to participate in, available through the East European Cluster Collaboration Platform, and the link is available there. Do please take up the discussion and continue it through the platform. Thank you once again to Nina and all our colleagues. Do keep an eye on the website. Do tell people and your colleagues about all the opportunities that are available through the EU Clusters Talks and the Cluster Collaboration. It has been a very great pleasure to hear our presenters and our panelists this morning. Thank you to everybody, and thank you to all of our participants for joining us this morning. Have a very good day. I hope your day goes well. Thank you all.